It's the Doncaster Toy Fair Pickup Show! Whee! In classic me fashion, I got very few things I intended to from the Doncaster Toy Fair, but I'm going to show you what I did in fact get right here, right now. So let's start with the corgis, one of which you've already seen. And that, of course, would be this, which is a Jim Henson Muppets tie-in. I've seen them in various catalogues before now. I've never picked any of them up. But as I got Kermit, I thought it would be rude not to get Miss Piggy as well. The axles are quite strange. But, they're very much corgi, and I was quite impressed that they both had their thumbs still, because I imagine that they could both easily be missing their thumbs. So I thought as they were quite nice examples, it would be nice to pick them up. And they both got Kermit the Frog underneath them. Oh no, actually no, I tell a lie. No, Miss Piggy does have Miss Piggy, which is entirely appropriate and would have involved Kermit getting beaten up had she not been featured. So fair dues, they've both got their own names on the bottom of their vehicles. They're both kind of still rolling. It's fine, they're good. Just noticed, as is often the way, I'm just looking at these for the first time myself now as I show them to you. Miss Piggy's got little eyes on her headlights. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but I don't know if that's a sticker that someone else has applied after the event, but it would be sort of in keeping with her, I suppose. So yeah, that's cool. So I got those two. Also got this. This is actually an upgrade because I already have this, but it was lacking its 007 sticker on the front. So I decided that I would get a fresh one. And this one is quite a nice condition one as well. So that's just because of my display case. But this is a Corgi Junior's Lotus Esprit. So it's a slightly different branding to those two that I just showed you, and a very, very different scale as well, of course. And then I got this. Now, this is a lunar bug. And I've been following a few of them on eBay. This is branded as a Corgi Comics subline. And I have no idea which comic this actually originates from. So if you know, let me know, because I don't know. I dare say I'll end up doing a different video on it in due course, once I found out a bit more about it. But I knew enough to look for certain things. So for example, this rear hatch is often missing on eBay examples. I don't know why, it doesn't seem particularly flaky, but I imagine it just got taken off and lost on some examples. They've also got these nice wings that come out. Reminds me a little bit of the Buckroger Starfighter, except that this is a bit more manual. On the big Starfighter, you could just press a button and they'd sort of spring out. But they are both there, which is what I was looking for. I'm hoping that the engines are complete. I have a sneaking suspicion they're maybe missing an exhaust nozzles, but if it's missing both, that'll be a little bit disappointing. But the fact that they don't look like they're missing only one suggests to me that maybe they didn't have them there, and I'm just imagining it. But they've definitely got sort of intakes on the front, which I thought they were supposed to have. Got all of its glass there, and it's glass on the front as well. So I think it's quite a nice example, and it's a damn sight less, damn sight cheaper than it could have gone for on eBay. And it's also got these wheels that go up, which I thought was a nice touch. So it's kind of like a flying vehicle when it needs to be as well, fully. But all of those features, touch wood, if I don't break it myself, appear to be present and correct. So yeah, quite happy with that as an example of it. And it, as with all these things, it saves me getting it off eBay, and it puts some money in someone's pocket directly without eBay fees. So it's all good. Now then, also got a couple of prezzies. I gave Mark from Blue Harvest Toys a lift over and a lift back. So eBay kindly got me a couple of little a Matchbox and a Corgi D7. I have a couple of these already. I think I've now got enough to I could actually recreate the Kobayashi Maru scenario, because this was, I'm sure I've shown this to you before, but this was a classic Corgi science fiction tie-in, of which they did several. But of course, the Star Trek ones were probably the most well known. And I used to play with this to death when I was little. This used to fly around everywhere. It used to get chased by Buck Rogers' Starfighter, all that good stuff. So yeah, I was impressed that you picked that one out for me. It's a nice example of it as well. It's pretty clean, nice sort of deep blue on it. It describes itself as a Klingon warship on the underside, but that's the curious thing is I mentioned the Kobayashi Maru, and these were branded as Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan toys, and that Kobayashi Maru scenario does appear in Star Trek II. So even though there aren't actually Klingons in the film, they do appear in that scenario. So that's why that came out as a tie-in to that particular film. And this little chap is this is a sort of standard. It's like a rescue hovercraft, but I think Mark and I discussed it briefly, and I think it's also an Adventure 2000 mould that they reused it for that line as well as they did with some other things. So those were my sort of initial pickups and my freebies, and this was also a freebie. Little Terrahawks book. I got this very kindly thrown in when I got some other figures. Wasn't something I was looking for, but I noticed it on the shelf, and I'm sure no one else was going to go for it. So I'll be interested to have a look at that, because I've no idea what the sort of storyline is. It might be the start of the Terrahawks storyline, or it might be something else entirely, but just not a piece of Terrahawks merchandise I've ever seen before. This piece of Terrahawks merchandise, he says, segueing seamlessly into that, I have seen before. I used to own this. Now, it's not a perfect box, but the price reflected the fact that it wasn't a perfect box. So there will be a separate video coming on this, because it is very, very unboxable, because it's got no side flap to it. It's someone's put in their own side flap, basically, so I can slot these all out. But the actual condition of the pieces inside, all complete. The Hawkwing has actually got a wire over the top of it still, so I may not be able to take that out, strictly speaking. Space Hawk has as well. Tree Hawk, no, I think actually the Tree Hawk has also got its original sort of retaining wire over the top of it. So actually, whilst I can get them out, I may not be able to get them out if I want to, I guess if I want to maintain the value. But the back of the box is there in reasonable shape, a little bit sellotape on it, unfortunately. But if you were brave, you could try and take it off. Although I think someone else has attempted to, and probably given it up as a bad job for obvious reasons, because it's a tricky thing to have to do that. But I remember getting these for one Christmas very, very clearly. Hawkwing has little wings that come out the side of it. Space Hawk has little wings that pop up and has retro thrusters underneath them, as I recall. Space Hawk is Space Hawk. I think there is a little missile that can detach from it or something like that. But I seem to remember this end bit tended to drop off. But it looks, the actual toys themselves look as if they are fully minty. I'm guessing they've had stickers attached to them. I think those are not factory applied stickers. I think I have seen pictures of this set with a decal sheet. So I think that they've had decals applied. But it's nice though, because you also get details of all the other ships that were in the range and so on. And it's seeing that. I mean, and it wasn't the only thing that was there, but the other things I felt were less complete and or out of my price range. Didn't see a Battlehawk, but I did see other things, some of which I had not owned. So there was quite a strong temptation to commit, but I didn't, because I thought that without knowing what the prices are generally set at for these, I wasn't convinced that it was worth going for. But I mean, and I've got to say this, and I will cover this on when I do the main video on this, but there are some stupid prices on eBay at the moment for Battlehawks. Please don't put Battlehawks up for thousands of pounds. I mean, when you look at the completed auctions, I don't understand why people are doing that, because yeah, you might get a couple of hundred for a fully complete minty Battlehawk in a box, but I don't understand why people think they can get thousands for them. But that's just me. I don't know. So if anyone knows why in the comments, do let me know. I mean, in fairness, what I did observe looking at completed auctions is that there aren't that many of them. for sort of boxed prime examples, this appealed to me because I could see that the ships were in really, really good condition, and the box I wasn't so fussed about, because if I want to display them, I'm going to get them out of the box. So the fact that the box is a bit tarnished was fine by me, and the price, for as the guy said, for a complete range of these, so you get a nice number of ships in the same packet, I thought that was a bit of a winner, quite frankly. So yeah, that was my surprise pickup from the day, which I definitely wasn't anticipating finding, but was interested in finding if I ever saw it. But first time I've seen them at Doncaster. Hopefully not the last. I think they are. There were definitely other figures around. Other people did have the odd example, but this one stall had a really sort of good range of them in toto, and this one was kind of lurking behind other things, and so I went and snaffled it before anyone else noticed it. Now then, speaking of things I wasn't expecting to see, never seen these before. Star Trek Legends of Star Trek. This is the NX-01. I would have picked up Klingon Battle Cruiser, but one of its nacelles was adrift inside the packaging, and I didn't know if I could reattach it. Johnny Lightning. I'd never heard of this brand, but bizarrely, and this is totally bizarre because I literally didn't know going to the fair. I did some reading last night on a toy company that I wanted to do a video on, and it turns out that they actually own this brand, which I'd never heard of before. So it's a small world, as they say. But you know, I am partial to a nice Star Trek die-cast model, and I probably will get this out of the packet because it wasn't massively expensive. Just to have a look at it as much as anything else, but I'll do a sort of a look at video on that. But it's rather sad in a sense because someone's put this huge sticker on the back, which is obscuring the text on the back packaging. So I mean, it's not, it's really, the packaging is neither use nor ornament at this point, because I bet it's going to be quite hard to get rid of this. It's quite a plasticky sticker, so I don't know why they've gone for that. But anyway, that was another little pickup. A less little pickup was with these guys. So here we have Matrix. Not that one, completely different one. Preceded that one by quite a bit. I have never seen a figure this big for Reboot before. And that was partly the reason why I got it, because I just thought I've never seen this before, so I think it would be rude of me not to pick it up. And I got it for a very reasonable price. In fact, I got two of them for a very reasonable price. And that was where I got my Terrahawks novel from as well. I'm not actually sure if you'll be able to see both of those in shot. But, so I've got basically the big bad, which is Megabyte here. And Reboot has had a reboot, oddly enough. I don't think I quite managed to watch all of it, but I was trying to get my son to watch it, and it turned out to be meh. I might need to give it another go, in fairness to it. And this is a sort of a grown-up version of one of the original characters from the first season who got kind of aged. So he's called Matrix, he's called Megabyte. From the looks from the back, there are two other characters available that you could get at this size. Now, I might well be able to pick those up on eBay, but again, had I not gone to the physical toy fair, I would never have thought to look for huge, well-articulated Reboot figures. So, that's one of the advantages of going to these fairs, is that you will see stuff that will trigger something that will make you want to go out and sort of start looking at other stuff. So, for what I didn't pay for them, I think those are just really, really good, big action figures. And for me, Reboot was one of those early completely CGI shows, but it appealed to me because it talked a lot of computer speak, but I got it. So for me, it was like, I understand that gag, I understood that reference. So that made perfect sense for me personally. But I mean, I do have a habit of going for stuff which is utterly left field and random that no other so-and-so actually wants, which makes it easier for me because they're desperate to get rid of it. So that's all good. Now, speaking of things that I had no idea existed and would not otherwise have got because I just thought, I've never seen that before and I have no idea when it'll turn up again, this would be a prime example of that. And I realised one of the reasons I think that I went for this mentally, even though I didn't actually go through this thought process at the time, was because on my good old website, which I've recently slightly fixed, so it's kind of more readable now, I covered various 80s cartoons, and I said to myself that one of my collecting goals ought to be to get an example of a piece of merchandise from each of those shows, just because there were shows that meant something to me growing up, and they're not all easy to get merchandise from either. And so when I saw this, I had to pick it up. Ulysses 31. And interestingly, because this is a properly French version, it's not actually Ulysses, it's Ulysses 31, because that's how it was. It was a French cartoon, kind of Japanese animation, but French by origin, and we got a dub. And I think a lot of people of my age will have seen this because it was one of those shows that was on BBC One, and it basically was the Odyssey of Homer's Odyssey, but in a science fiction setting. So it had all the sort of the god references were in there per sort of Greek legend and so on, but it was in science fiction. Brilliant idea. Loved it as a series. Got a DVD set of it still. I will do a separate video on this one. And apparently there were a lot of people looking at this, and I can completely understand why, because most of the toys of this date back from the early 80s. They were sort of, I think they were Poppy toys. They did the die-cast toys of the ships and some of the figures as well. But they are really old and therefore very expensive. This wasn't cheap, but it's less expensive than one of those era toys would have been. And it's a really, really superb looking likeness. And as the chap said to me, he's got his shield in the bottom of the box, that's there. And he's got a sort of material cloak as well, rather than having a sort of plastic cloak from the looks of it. And I may have to get this out, but what I really loved as well is the fact that they've gone very much for the sort of the cartoon look and feel of the character for the packaging. So, you know, if you know the show, that is immediately recognisable. All the main characters are immediately recognisable, and it would have been extremely rude of me not to, quite frankly. I think Gareth from Cosmic Toys probably would have beat me to the punch at some point during the day had I not gone for it. But I had a lovely chat with a guy on the stall, which is, again, one of the advantages of going to fairs like that or going into stores. And I was just sort of doing some research on it in an ad hoc fashion, just to make sure I wasn't getting, you know, sort of clobbered on price. But to be honest, again, it was, you know, show me another one. I've never seen it before, ever. Didn't know it existed. I think it dates from about 15 years ago, so it's not actually young at all. It's still an old toy, but it's in, you know, the packaging is in really, really nice shape. It's probably still sealed, but I mean, he must have checked it at some point to know that the shield is in there. And in fact, the stickers have been cut, so he's obviously he's gone into it to check its condition, I think. But yeah, Ulysses reboot, Terrahawks. I mean, you know, you literally couldn't write it. If you'd said to me, that's what you're going to come away with when you go to Doncaster today, I thought, not Cat and Elle's chance. No way. And I haven't spent a fortune. And in fact, Mark and I were having this conversation on the way back in the car and saying, you know, the way things are at the moment, you could do worse than go to a toy fair if you need to buy some toys for your kids. Because you can buy a lot of stuff for not a lot of money. You know, the stuff that isn't sort of in high demand, it's there, it's in boxes. Kids won't care if it's current for the most part. Just go to a toy fair. Doesn't cost a huge amount to get in, you know, in the normal sort of times. Just pop into the toy fair, have a quick look round, pick up some bargains, go home again. Job's good, especially if you're local. Easy. So, yeah, so those were my rather sort of surprising, but also rather lovely pickups from Doncaster Toy Fair on this occasion. Before I forget, and if the phone holds out, I also got these. Jagar and Commander Susan Ivanova. Not the best examples but I can get these out because this box is wrecked. So that's fine. Been meaning to pick these up for forever. I've got smaller action figures that were sort of solid plastic, but these have sort of proper material outfits and stuff on them. And they've got other things in the box. I'm actually really intrigued to have a look at what's actually in the boxes as a whole, because I've passed on eBay auctions before now where it was just the figures, because I wanted to get the boxes to see what's actually in the boxes as extras. So yeah, so again, not exorbitant at all. But you do have to watch your budget a little bit when you go into these, because if there are card machines available for use, then it gets dangerous. But it's I'm just looking at it now, and I'm just really, really chuffed with what I managed to pick up in the course of a single visit. And there's just such a range of stuff available there that I can't encourage you more than I possibly have already said on my previous video when I was walking around the place. Go to one of these if you get the chance, because if you are at all similarly minded, you will really, really enjoy your time there. Cheers for now.